Hello and welcome to the program. This edition of Newsroom series covering Nigeria's Northeast. I am Bukola Koka. And we start off with this one. Normalcy is gradually returning to Lamurde local government area following the recent crisis between the Bachama and Chobo communities of Adamawa state, which resulted in the loss of lives and destruction of property worth millions of naira. Governor Umar Fintiri, who visited the affected areas for an on-the-spot assessment, has appealed to the warring parties to sheath their swords and embrace peaceful coexistence.
In a determined push for peace, Governor Amadu Umar Fintiri, accompanied by his deputy, who is a native of the region, arrives with members of the State Executive Council and top security officials. Their mission is urgent: to end the violent clashes between the neighboring Waduko and Chobo communities, whose dispute over farmland has spiraled into deadly confrontations, claiming lives, torching homes, and leaving families without food or shelter. The first stop is Waduko. The governor tours the area, taking in the damage and hearing from residents directly affected by the violence. Next, the governor proceeds to Lakan in Chobo territory, where elders and residents gather to receive him. There, raw emotions surface. Community leaders from both sides share their versions of how the crisis began, trading blame, yet ultimately agreeing on one thing: the need to lay down arms and pursue peace.
I believe everyone knows that peace is non-negotiable. We need peace almost in every sphere of life, and we cannot do anything in the absence of peace.
This conflict is not just about farm disputes. There must be another cause which government must be aware of in order to provide lasting solution.
Governor Fintiri sympathizes with victims and urges a return to the era of peaceful coexistence, reminding all that rancor only holds back development, while warning that anyone found to have incited violence will face the full weight of the law. The governor also reassures the people of his administration's commitment to their safety and long-term welfare.
You saw what happened. You saw the amount of houses that have been burned, businesses damaged and burned. But what can we do? We won't lose hope. We're government. We will ensure we come to their aid. We will ensure we rebuild this community because they have no choice than to live together. It is God that has made it and destined that they should live together, and they are going to live together.
The visit ends in Ringaj, where charred rooftops and crumbled homes stand as a haunting reminder of what was lost. But beneath the rubble, there is resolve. Both communities now share a cautious but genuine hope that this marks the beginning of lasting peace.
And in Taraba State, government says it is taking proactive measures to recover ungoverned spaces used by hoodlums to perpetrate evil and ensure security of lives and property. The secretary to the Taraba State government, Mr. Gebon Kataps, made this disclosure on behalf of the governor, Abu Keifas, at the passing out parade of Taraba Marshal Security Guards, a grassroots security architecture designed to assist in the fight against insecurity.
It's the passing out parade of the Taraba State Security Intervention Force, known as Taraba Marshal Security Guards, coming 3 weeks after intensive training to complement the fight against insecurity by other security agencies. The over 600 newly trained personnel drawn from across the state will provide complementary security services in intelligence gathering, community engagement, and rapid response to emerging threats within Taraba's ungoverned spaces.
It is the beginning of a renewed journey of service, patriotism, and discipline. These gallant men and women have been sharpened physically and mentally, to take on the noble responsibility of safeguarding lives and property.
The Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps is convinced that the Taraba Marshal Security Guard is a certified company, and their partnership will boost the fight against insecurity.
This is really a way forward for the state, because security is everybody's business. And you know, those graduating private guards company, security guards company, they were taught on different mode of approaching various crime and criminality in the state.
For his part, the secretary to the state government insists that state policing is part of the solution to addressing the insecurity challenges.
This will enable grassroots security monitoring and tracking to assist the conventional security agencies in combating crime in Taraba State. Lives and property must be protected in this state. Our men that is living in and around our towns and villages in the bush, to ensure that everyone is protected, are properly taken care of.
Some of the trainees who distinguished themselves during the drill were recognized and rewarded. The proposed bill establishing the Taraba Marshal Security Guard is currently before the State Assembly for amendment of some grey areas to avert a clash in responsibilities with other security agencies.
And away from security matters now, as part of efforts to ameliorate the sufferings of its citizens, the Northeast Development Commission, in partnership with the Yobe state government, has handed over building materials to victims of flood disaster in Yobe state. The commission equally handed over assorted search and rescue equipment to the State Emergency Management Agency in case of any disaster. The managing director of the commission, represented by the Yobe state coordinator, Professor Ali Abbas, said several communities affected by flood across 13 local government areas of the state will benefit from this gesture.
Trucks loaded with building materials such as roofing sheets, ceilings, nails and wood are set for distribution to flood-affected areas in Yobe State. The NEDC Managing Director, represented by the Yobe State Coordinator, Professor Ali Abbas, explains that victims in 13 local government areas will benefit from the support.
The flooding was devastating, with high-level impact on our societies, communities, and livelihood. We are not praying that this should happen again, but as human beings, we must always prepare in case of eventualities. And that is why the NEDC, in collaboration with the Yobe State government, under His Excellency Governor Maimala Buni, is today supporting these communities affected by flooding.
Also speaking, the Commissioner for Humanitarian Affairs, Dr. Mairo Amshi, and the Executive Secretary of SEMA, Mohamed Goje, revealing that over 25,000 flood victims received cash and material support in November 2024.
With these items, I would like to, on behalf of the State Emergency Management Agency, our field teams, to assure the NEDC team that we will use these items judiciously, and these items will replicate in saving lives across those communities.
About 25,000 vulnerable communities were identified in all the 17 local government areas. Each were given 50,000 naira, totaling about 1.436 billion. You can see how His Excellency has been showing concern. And our doors are always open to development partners, those nationally and internationally, with what we are seeing today, the NADC has really supported Yobe State in many aspects, and it has really come at the right time.
The Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, has identified Yobe State as a high-risk flood zone. Stakeholders believe that providing these materials and equipment is crucial in preparing for possible future disasters and ensuring swift responses to emergencies.
There's more to come from Yobe State later, but in the meantime, the governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, is stepping up the fight against banditry by introducing a new security tracking system designed to help security agencies locate and arrest criminals hiding in forests and remote areas. The governor, who announced this while presenting 7 operational Hilux vehicles to the State Vigilante and Youth Empowerment Agency, explains that the vehicles are part of efforts to strengthen the agency and improve its operations in the fight against crime.
We are surrounded by a lot of insecurity. I'm happy with what the governor of Taraba has initiated in terms of a cross-border initiative between the states contiguous to him, that we have to look at the problems and challenges of insecurity, banditry, especially in Daji Madam, that is jointly shared by Plateau, Bauchi, and Taraba, and to a certain extent, Gombe State. But on our own part, our vigilante are doing very well, maybe because of the strong collaboration with the security agencies who are always leading the way. You can see even the agency is made of not only by hunters, but civil defense, police, SSS, and the army. And they have always made very successful forays in terms of making us very secure. I want to say, on the advice of the security committee, we are establishing a very strong post in my village, Duguri, and of course in Putuk, and then other places, to make sure that we give a lot of support to the vigilante. And I want to tell you, we have just secured these 7 vehicles for them to renew their fleet so that they can be going to these hard-to-reach places easily. But for the rest of the security agencies, we are coming. We are providing more for you. We know you are there for us. We are just starting because we don't have resources. We don't have privilege of getting. We have written to the federal government to give us some assistance, but we have not gotten yet. But maybe when we get it, we'll do more. Even if we don't get it, we are leveraging on other agency of the federal government, that is the NEDC, who have said they wanted to help us.
Halfway through its reform agenda, Yobe State has recorded notable progress in its education sector with the renovation of over 150 primary and secondary schools and the creation of a more conducive learning environment, especially in rural areas that have been affected by insurgency. The ongoing recruitment of qualified teachers and the provision of learning and materials has significantly improved classroom attendance and teacher-student ratios. Furthermore, the launch of the Back to School initiative has fully reintegrated over 20,000 out-of-school children with a special emphasis on girl-child education. Joining us for more is the Commissioner for Basic and Secondary Schools in Yobe State, Associate Professor Abba Idris Adam, who joins us from Damaturu, the state capital. Thank you for joining us, Professor Adam, on the program.
Thank you and good evening.
And let's start with the Back to School initiative. How effective has it been in reducing the number of out-of-school children?
Well, this is initiative actually initiated by His Excellency Honorable Maimala Buni in his second term in office in the last 2 years. This initiative has actually identified that we are having a high number of out-of-school children as a result of Boko Haram insurgency that has displaced most of them. That's why His Excellency has created the initiative in order to take these communities back to their hometown and then make sure that these students or these children that are roaming the street are being, taken back to school. That is why if you look at the statistic, you realize that the impact has been so enormous. For example, based on the National Bureau of Statistics, Yobe State is having about 4.3 million population. An estimated percentage of school-age children in the state is about 26%. That is about 1.1 million. And then the actual enrollment in formal school is about 63%. That is representing about 738,000, while the enrollment in Almajiri and Rangaya school is about 15.5%. That is representing about 180,000. So the percentage of out-of-school children as of today is just 21.29%, which is representing about 248,000, 247,230, as against the number given by the National Bureau of Statistics in their 2020, which was about 427,000. So you can see how the number of out-of-school children is drastically reducing due to this initiative initiated by His Excellency.
So let's go to outcomes now in the areas of teacher recruitment. What numbers can you give us in the ongoing recruitment exercise? And what are the outcomes also in teacher-student ratio?
Actually, the recruitment exercise was divided into 3 phases. Phase number 1 took place last year, where 1,200 teachers were recruited. And this year, the second phase is also targeting 1,200, but so far 600 teachers have already been recruited, and the training is going on. We are not just recruiting them, even though we know that after the process through which these teachers are recruited is a rigorous process that a teacher must obtain the minimum teaching qualification. And then after the recruitment, before we send them to class, we give them a workshop on teacher quality and teaching method, classroom control, and teaching methodology. This will give them enough experience to handle students in class. Our target is to at least have at least 35 students per teacher in a class, which we are almost about to have, God willing.
What do you currently have?
We currently have about 50 to 55%. Yeah, 50 to 55% per teacher. And that is why the initiative to make sure that we recruit more teachers is going on. Our target is to at least have 35 teachers, 35 students per teacher. And this is going on. We are in the second phase. And by the time we finish this third phase, this target will be achieved.
Well, it's an important question, because if you consider 1,200 teachers to over 765,000 students, that would be perhaps one teacher to about 700 students. But you have the numbers and you can verify. Lastly, before we go, how is the government addressing the shortage of digital infrastructure in rural schools, which is critical to aligning the students' learning experience with the new technological age?
Well, before I answer this, let me go back to 1,000 that I mentioned. This 1,000 is the new recruitment. We already have existing ones. So in the last year, we recruited 1,200. In this year, 1,200. We have already recruited 6 out of this 1,000. Another 1,200 will be recruited next year. Providing facilities, ICT facilities in the rural area, we know the importance of ICT facilities, particularly to schools. However, there are so many challenges that are surrounding this activity. Number 1, shortage, almost lack of electricity in rural areas. Most of the rural areas where we want to take these ICT facilities, they lack electricity. However, in order to address this, His Excellency Honorable Mai Malabuni has signed MOU with Rural Electrification Agency in order to provide power, solar power to our rural schools. And some of the companies have already started moving to the site. Second challenge we are facing is poor internet connectivity. Sometimes you have a very good program that you want to present, but because of poor internet connectivity, you have some challenges. Sometimes these facilities that we are moving with cannot, ordinary modem or hotspot cannot provide the required internet service to them. That is why we are now resorting to having a kind of offline facilities where we can, record and download whatever we want so that it can be operated online. The third challenge we are facing is shortage of the facilities. It is important that each and every child in school has a computer or a laptop. However, because we cannot provide this to each and every student, what we are doing, we are establishing computer laboratory where students take shift. In the morning, some students will go and have their practical. In the afternoon, others will go, and then others will go in the evening. Another critical challenge that we are facing is the lack of technical skills. Most of these ICT experts, if you want to take them to rural areas, they'll just give you some excuses. No, I cannot go to rural area because they prefer to stay in town where they will be getting much money compared to the rural areas. That is why what we are now doing is taking people from the rural community and train them that when we send them back, they are going back to their homeland in order to make sure they contribute.
All right. We must thank you very much for your time and your thoughts on the program. We've been talking with the Commissioner for Basic and Secondary Education in Yobe State, Professor Abba Idris Adam. Thank you for coming through on this conversation.
Thank you so much.
And in Taraba State, the management of Federal University Wukari in Taraba is calling on the federal and state governments to invest more in green energy and waste-to-wealth initiatives. They say the country has the resources to reduce its dependence on the national grid by embracing affordable and sustainable renewable energy options.
A visit to Jalingo, Taraba's capital, and nearby communities shows a slow but rising shift to solar energy. Out of every 70 households, only 5 have adopted solar panels to meet their electricity needs. Experts say renewable energy is not only cost-effective, but also reduces pollution, improves public health, and offers a sustainable solution for the environment. At Federal University Wukari, researchers have identified a major gap. Government investment in renewable energy and waste-to-wealth projects remains too low, making the nation overly dependent on an unreliable power grid.
Government funding for waste management initiative, integration of waste management into academic curricula, fostering a culture of research and innovation in waste management. Call to action. Let us heed the lesson of the broken fragment where nothing is wasted, worthless. The government can invest in the sustainability today to avert a costlier crisis tomorrow.
The Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Administration, Federal University Wukari, has emphasized the global shift towards climate action is no longer optional, but an urgent necessity for survival.
What she really means by coagulate the broken fragments, meaning things that are broken chemically into the system, you can collect them back and make them into a useful thing, like waste to wealth.
Of recent, I think I was also watching a television, how students in Nigeria were trying to, from cassava, produce a kind of a polyethylene, okay, so that to replace this chemical polyethylene that is not biodegradable. In Ghana, that one too has been done, you see. So that recycling, if it is actually being actualized, it will help seriously, not only to boost the economy, but it will also reduce, the waste being dumped in our land.
The Federal University Wukari believes that by supporting green energy initiatives, Nigeria can achieve energy security, economic growth, and a healthier environment for future generations.
Gombe State has chaired the 6th Joint Development Project Council meeting at the Government House, focusing on key infrastructure projects to boost development across the state. At a press briefing, the Director General of the JPDA, Mr. Mahmoud Yusuf, announced plans to install solar street lights worth 1.1 billion naira on the newly constructed 11-kilometer-long Tunfure Urban Renewal Road, part of the government's Executive Order 4 for urban expansion. The Gombe State Joint Development Project Council has met again, this time to approve new infrastructure projects aimed at boosting development in both urban and rural areas. Governor Inuwa Yahaya chaired the meeting, which brought together the Commissioner for Local Government, chairpersons of the 11 local government areas, and the Director General of the Joint Project Development Agency, JPDA.
Another project that was approved today by the Council is the provision of solar street lights in the newly constructed roads in Tumfre, Agdis of Akko local government area. All the newly roads that were constructed by the state government, we are going to provide solar street light for them. And this project is going to cost a total sum of 1,143,570,310 naira 72 kobo.
Another 681 million solar lighting project will target select villages in Nafada local government area to improve rural electrification. The council also approved the construction of story building stores at Biliri Market, designed to boost local commerce and promote even development across Gombe State.
Another project that was approved by the council today is the conversion of the ongoing construction of Kantoma Market in Biliri local government to a one-story building. You know, this project was approved by this council in December during our 4th joint project council meeting, and now it has been approved again for conversion to a story building.
Like if you look at Tumfure, of late we've been having issues of insecurity and all of that. Now with this development, I stand to support the government in its bid to bring the street lights. It will lighten up the place, and then it will encourage the security personnel to do their work even more.
Local business owner Christiana Timi also expressed joy over the street lights and roads, saying they would improve trade and attract more customers at night.
Then I was not even doing anything because it was because of the road that made me started this business. Because when I saw the place, I said this place is a good strategic business center. So I said, let me start the business, and to God be the glory, everything is moving well. And it was an eye-opener because so many people have been coming there saying, I didn't think I know I could have started this business here.
As Gombe State and its 11 local governments continue to fund joint projects, officials say the goal is all-round development that promotes fairness, growth and inclusion for every community. Well, a fine place to anchor the program at this point. Thank you so much for watching. Join us again, same time next week when we'll bring you another round of editions covering different regions of the country. I am Bukola Koka. Bye for now.